we're very multicultural, and I think it adds to the vibrant real estate community and the ability for developers to get creative.
You're watching the Hersh Condos Digital Experience. And here's your host, Mitch Parker.
Welcome to episode 26 of the Hersh Condos Digital Experience. I'm your host, Mitch Parker, and I'm sitting with a very special guest today, Jordan Tepperman, who is the Executive Vice President of Haven Developments. Jordan, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So let's jump right into this. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started in the development industry?
I grew up in the Toronto construction world. Our family had a 5-generation business by the name of Tepperman Wrecking, which developed a lot of city cores throughout Canada. So it wasn't just Toronto, it was Montreal, Ottawa, Winnipeg, Vancouver, out east, and into the United States, primarily New York City. So growing up, we basically were spending our Saturdays going to the job sites, mini projects in the city that I can name off of, from BCE Place to Commerce Court to First Canadian Place, were all demolished by Tepperman at some stage. The biggest demolition job or city kind of takedown that ever went down was in the city of Toronto, which was the 5 blocks of the Toronto Eaton Centre that was formerly Eaton's warehousing and head office for all of Canada. So so that's how I got started.
So how do you transition from like doing the wrecking of the sites to putting them up? Like, what was that? Was there like an aha moment? Was there something?
So we started off, all of us worked in the wrecking business. We went on Saturdays and worked in the yard. And then in between school, we would take the summers off and we'd go and work. It was a really good opportunity because I got to explore the city. I saw areas like King West, Ossington, the east evolve from industrial to residential. I remember going down to Liberty Village when it was Inglis appliances, and now it's a vibrant community that's self-sustained. So that was one stage of my life, and then the second stage of my life is, like every mother wants their child to go to become a professional. So I went to law school in Ontario at the University of Ottawa, and became a lawyer. And I practiced at a major law firm in Toronto that unfortunately is not around anymore. And I practiced real estate law, and I worked for other developers. And it got to a point where in about 2007, we had a little bit of an economic meltdown, and one of my clients that is a major player in the development business, and from a provincial standpoint, convinced me to come work for him. And originally the deal was you're going to come work as a lawyer, and then I ended up running his residential commercial arm, and we ended up developing a number of significant sites in Kitchener-Waterloo, London, Ontario, Toronto, Ottawa, and even went as far as down in Florida. We were building mid-rise condominium down there. After that, I got together with the Haven partners, and it's been a number of years since we've been going and finished a number of projects, and I look back and we're continuing to contribute to the evolving changes of the city's fabric.
You mentioned earlier that like your demolition business was really all over Canada and North America to a great extent. Why ultimately are you developing in Toronto, the GTA? Like, what do you love so much about it?
I think that Toronto is one of the greatest cities in the world. I've traveled a lot. I've seen major city cores. I think that in Toronto, we've got culture. You've got politics, you've got local amenities that are really, really unique to our city. We've got sports, you've got urban space that you don't have to live on top of somebody else. I really think Toronto, listen, everybody who comes from a city is very proud of their city, and will show that they feel that their city's better than ours. You always hear during the playoffs, the mayor will call up the other mayor and say, "I'll bet you a bag of chicken wings that we're gonna kick your butt." And so, everyone's got some pride, but Toronto's very special. We have very multicultural areas, and I remember going down and to Little India with another big developer. We were going to do a joint venture. We were putting some land together, and Little India is like Gerrard East
Right.
and Broadway and that kind of corridor, Carlisle, and we were standing on the street. There's a streetcar. We're looking at the site. It was an old decrepit gas station with 2 houses that were boarded up that I think once was a bar or whatever it was, and and we see people of different nationalities on their bikes, walking, exploring the urban context, going into the restaurants, stores. There was a very fancy restaurant that's known in Toronto. I don't eat Indian food, but I'm trying to think of the name. It's in that quadrant that there was a lineup, and we looked at it and we said, this is perfect. Like this is Toronto, and you can hop throughout these different areas and explore Toronto as a great city, but also get world context to it that I don't know if you would see in other cities across North America, particularly the United States and other places in Canada. We're very multicultural, and I think it adds to the vibrant real estate community and the ability for developers to get creative.
Yeah, and I totally agree with all that. So you mentioned community there, and obviously we're going through COVID and all the stuff that's been going on. How have you seen it, I think, affect your business, but then also the development industry in general?
It certainly has changed the business. I mean, today, we're discussing sales office openings, decor. We have decor centers that are opening for various projects, even future launches and how those are going to look. I think, we're going to see what's going to happen in September, October. They are calling for a second wave of this, and what the extent is. I personally think Ontario has been responsible, other than some other little hiccups with beaches and parks, and people are just antsy. You can't tell people to sit home for 12 weeks on their hands and not do something to get out when the weather gets good. At the same token, I think that there's been a bit of a hunger for real estate. People have been thinking about it. Either they were going to move pre-COVID or post-COVID. Now they're starting to think about it. Maybe their situation has changed. COVID unfortunately isn't going to go away, and it's going to be addressed from the medical community, not from the real estate construction community. Yes. We're not addressing it. We are addressing it by being safe and putting in protocols in place to ensure that the best delivery of that unit is done in a safe way for our customers. We have a really strong real estate market here. There's a demand. We had a housing issue before COVID. Yes. We have a housing issue post-COVID. We do have a hot Toronto market. I think people are trying to use distractions, so I think real estate will pick up despite COVID being there. I'm seeing on the resale stuff moving and being put up for sale. I'm also seeing that there are developers creeping out now with potential launches. East Mall, a Haven project that Hersh Condo Group is going to be working on.
Yeah, we're super excited about
it. Is one that's an example, and I know there's been a lot of hype and there's been interest, and people have been calling, and the site's under construction, and people have even been stopping by to see us put up the building. So that's kind of where I think COVID is. I mean, I do have I could sit here for 25 minutes and say, here's why I think COVID might help the market, and here's why COVID is going to kill the market. We want, as badly as you want, to get you in your new house and to make you as comfortable as we can, and hopefully you'll refer another family member or someone within that existing development, or you'll go to one of our other developments because you feel that we're a trusted source. If we can make your life easier during COVID, by all means, that's the objective of the game. Mm-hmm. But it's been a challenge for everyone, and certainly for the purchasers, I do see some of the challenges that they're faced. We've got sites in Midtown, the city. We're in the east part, we're in the west part, we're in the north, and we're in the south. So we've covered ourselves quite well, and we're looking beyond within the GO transit routes quite aggressively. I think that markets like Hamilton, Kitchener, Waterloo, Guelph, Pickering, Oshawa, even as far as Brooklyn are all fair game. In the sort of periphery, Aurora, Vaughan, those are good markets too. And as the government is investing in transit infrastructure, no doubt Haven will be behind those while they're making their decisions, we will be also canvassing those areas for development improvements.
Yeah, and seeing where a project could potentially
Correct.
go.
I mean, now they're talking about moving the train up to Yonge Street through Richmond Hill. So I would imagine as you get past Yonge and Elgin Mills and up to Yonge and even where Hillcrest Mall is now becoming a bit of a high-rise node, past the 407. I think those are all prime markets to look at and to deliver urban living.
And that's a great tip for maybe like an investor or real estate agent who has investors to start looking at areas like that now, where you can still get a decent bargain and just run with the appreciation as it goes.
Toronto at one time did not have a condo market. Like, I remember my grandfather telling me in the 1980s that Robert Campo, who was Campo Corporation, he built most of the condos along the waterfront, and he built Scotia Plaza. He also owned Federated Department Stores, which was Bloomingdale's, Macy's,
Wow.
JCPenney, and he went broke buying the junk bonds in the 80s of the department stores because he couldn't hold the debt. Campo was giving away condos down at the waterfront that are those 2 levels, the old concrete precast
Oh, I know what you're
ones,
talking about, yeah.
just beside one Queen's Quay there.
Yeah.
He couldn't give them away. And today those things are trading for a pretty buck. And
Yeah.
our waterfront is improving with all the amenities going down in the waterfront district with George Brown and Chorus and Sugar Beach. So, time as the city's growing and evolving and expanding, these other markets that we were just talking about a couple of minutes ago are going to be very much relevant. And we're going to be a big metropolis like New York and Boston and other major city centers that are bigger populations like Toronto.
Yeah.
And I see the same thing in other centers like Ottawa and Montreal are starting to become in a little bit of a condo boom where traditionally they weren't in that stage. So Toronto at one time had 192 cranes. I think we're up to 201 right now. A couple of them are havens, and I think that we have more growth, but importantly within the periphery and the urban core as well.
That's great. Well, listen, I think that's a perfect spot to end. Jordan, thank you so much for being a guest here.
Thank
Really
you for
appreciate
having me
having
today.
you. This has been episode 26 of the Hersh Condos Digital Experience. I'm your host, Mitch Parker, and until next time, have a successful day.
Thanks for watching the Hersh Condos Digital Experience. Stay tuned for more exciting content, subscribe to our channel, and make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms.